Okay, listeners, I am so excited for part 2 of a conversation with Mike from here at FBC and just the amazing work that the Lord has him doing in India.
Welcome to FBC Missions So That podcast. This is an encouraging place to hear how God is working in and around us. We know that He blesses His people so that they can bless the world around them. Join us as we discuss how to join God in all that He is doing. Why is God working in our life, church, and community? It's so that through us the world will know that He is near.
Okay, well, here we are, Mike. Part 2.
Yeah, this was great.
I'm so grateful that you came back in today, and well, what a day at FBC. As we were coming into the podcast studio this morning, we were talking about all the fun happening here. I even saw part of your family going into vacation Bible school.
Yeah, we have two granddaughters.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome. The things going on at this church are just incredible. And listeners, you are in for an incredible 30-ish minutes as we record part 2 with Mike here in the studio. So if you didn't hear part 1, I encourage you to go back. The last time we had an opportunity to talk, we talked about how the Lord just put things in front of you to stir your heart, not just for people to know the Lord, but specifically unreached people to know the Lord. And we unpacked your heart for unreached. We unpacked what that is. We unpacked your passion. And today we're going to talk a little bit about strategy and the strategy that you specifically are using with your partners in India and what that looks like and what you're teaching, and share some stories. So let's get started.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Okay, so Mike, BAM. Tell us about BAM.
I was introduced to BAM, like I said, 3 or 4 years ago. Chad, our missions pastor, sent me to a B4T conference. Some people call it B4T, some BAM. There's so many terms for it. In India, it's B for M, Business for Multiplication, movement there to support what's going on. But we as a church are really embracing this now. We have our own committee. We have several leaders involved in that. And so our focus, particularly with our committee, is to bring leaders in our church and former military, business executives, people that are currently involved in business that want to use their skills and experience that they have to help in the missions field through the church. And so, the goal for BAM, at least for us, is that people use these tools to glorify God. We want to transform communities, advance the gospel in a way that's sustainable, profitable, and deeply rooted in Christian values. And we are obviously looking towards a lot of areas, not only across the world, in places like India where they're unreached, but we're also developing those strategies where we can do that here domestically as well. So the church has given us an opportunity, and we're so excited about it.
That's really cool. And I heard you say, Mike, you talked about for India and what's going on. So just recap for us a little bit about why India, what's going on when you referenced that just a second ago.
Well, I was introduced to India last year for the first time, and I've been there 3 times in the last 16 months. So for me, our church is expanding and growing to several areas, not just India, but Iran, and there are a lot of unreached countries. But this was our initial footprint into BAM in India. So that's where we focused right now and excited in 3 or 4 major cities there. We're developing teams on the ground that can follow up. It's more complicated. It's not something you can go over there and just do and then leave and come back. You've got to have people there, indigenous people that kind of understand the training and what you've done and that can follow up. And we want to mentor those people and support. We don't want to just give them skill sets, give them information, and then leave.
Yeah.
So they need the time. So we're developing an entire team over there right now.
And so when we think about this strategy, multiplication in terms of the gospel is happening in India.
Oh, very much so.
It's very much happening. But the difference is a pastor in India doesn't have a church. I mean, we're sitting here at FBC. We look at our campus. We look at the infrastructure that we have just within our church, and it's pretty incredible. They don't have that.
They don't. And most of them start by asking people to meet in their homes.
Yes.
And it's very modest. It's small. Most of the churches on average have maybe 10, 12 members, some a few more. Then once they develop and get to that size, then they'll seek out somebody the Lord's directed them that's in that group that will start the next church, and they'll do that in their home. And so these are home churches, house church. It's wonderful. You go and you meet these people, and you go into their homes, and their love for the Lord is amazing.
Well, and I just would love to go myself. I think I told you that last time. I'll go. I want to go. My husband's probably like, oh goodness, where are we going? But help us just to understand why these house churches are so significant. So I would just imagine if you can kind of, take us on a journey to India, the sights, the sounds, the temples, like where most people go for worshiping, for religion, and how significant it is that there's just these everyday people that have come to know the Lord, and now their church is in their home. And then, so that'll lead us to why BAM, the significance and what it's helping these pastors to do. But can you take us on just a little sights and sounds and what it looks like for religion over there?
Well, they're dealing with, of course, Muslims and Hindus, majority of the people over there. So as they're sharing the gospel with people, Christianity obviously is foreign to them, and that's not something that's acceptable. So these people are risking a lot. When they're in their community, they're praying and asking for that person of peace that they meet in that area. Somebody that's interested shares go. And usually it is true that usually when a person comes to know the Lord, their entire family does. And at that point in time, they'll start meeting with them. They'll bring friends, and it'll start growing very quickly. And with the Holy Spirit leading these guys, it's amazing. I was skeptical, but I went and saw and met and went to churches and talked to the pastors. And man, when the Lord's moving, these people are coming to know Christ. Wow. And their stories, their testimonies of visions that they've seen, how the Lord came to them in a dream, how they were seeking. We wonder what people have never heard, and they'll say, I knew there was something. I just knew what we were learning, what we'd been raised with was not right. And the Lord, through these various circumstances, brought somebody into our lives and shared the gospel.
Wow.
And so it's probably powerful. And when you go to one of their worship, we'd go out in a remote area and go to one of these little house churches, and the worship is incredible. The praising the Lord, the singing, the preaching. Joy, I would imagine. It's incredible in their relationships, and you can just see it on their faces.
It's amazing that the whole family will then convert. Because I've read. I read a book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, and it was talking about a Muslim believer who had come to the U.S. from Pakistan, Nabil Quresh, and he spoke about how like his family kind of were like, okay, you're out. And so that is so neat that the whole family will sometimes just convert and follow and be together in community. That's incredible.
Yeah, we when I was there, not this trip, the prior trip, we actually went to a home. It was so exciting. The family was there. The grandparents were there, and they'd come to know the Lord. The family was there, and all the children and the younger. So it was 3 generations that had come to know the Lord just through this one member of the family.
Wow.
And so they had started their own home church, and were bringing other folks in. And, it can only get so big. They need to be careful. They have to be very careful over there.
Yeah.
And, and
like,
it depends.
Why do they have to be careful? Will you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, it depends. There are 38 states in India. Mm-hmm. Some of them are more welcoming, I guess you'd say. I mean, there are churches that can openly meet in certain cities, certain areas you'll see. And there are other places where we've gone where, in fact, this last time we were there, there was a group we met with, and evidently it was told about. So the following week, 2 of the guys that we work with that are leaders over there met in that same place with those same group of pastors, and it was raided, and they got out with 5 hours of interrogation with the police. It was very scary for them. So it really depends on the area. So we have to be careful. Yeah. We meet in small groups. Even when we do our training, we do it in small groups, and we do it in cities and areas where we won't put the pastors into a situation where they're just jeopardized.
Yeah. Well, thanks for just painting that picture. So you have regular everyday people, they come to know the Lord, and then they become a pastor.
Yeah, there's training.
They
It's
don't go
not,
to seminary. They don't.
they don't. But
No.
but on the other side, I was thinking, well, how can they do this? How do they learn? And there really is a really good program that they go through, and they train these pastors. They go through the steps of teaching them, about Jesus, and then when they come to the Lord, here's the things that you need to teach. Here's what the Bible says. Here's how you treat other people. Here's how you follow Christ. And so there is
it's a grassroots university kind of. Like,
it is, but the
amazing.
local regional guy that's in charge of the group of the pastor does spend time with those pastors for several weeks, really giving them a good foundation. And then there's also through several organizations that we work with, they follow up, do pastor training.
Wow.
So they give them more gospel knowledge, more in depth.
I mean, even that is a huge victory for them to have the opportunity to learn what does it look like to pastor, to have a church.
Yes.
Like that in itself is huge.
Yeah.
So they're trying to pastor a church, but how are they supposed to provide for their family? That's really where BAM comes in.
Yeah, we talked about that last time. The two largest roadblocks for the pastors there is one is Bible knowledge, like we talked about. They're just hungry to learn more and more about the gospel, to share. What's God say about marriage, and all the things that we deal with here.
Right.
They need to learn the same things. And the other one is their how do they provide for their family,
Yes.
provide for the local community, and be an instrument there, and then also to support the church and grow the church. Because each one of these, you think about it, they have the home church. When the people come, they feed them, they care
Yes.
for them, they help
Yes.
meet their needs. Well, they can barely feed their family.
Yeah, again,
So-
they don't have the infrastructure that
right.
we have. They don't have Sunday school rooms. They don't have people
Right.
bringing Mary's tacos. They don't.
No, they don't. So
that is so cool.
So it's really interesting that when you look at those are the two largest needs that they have.
Okay.
So financially, so what we're trying to help them do is be able to learn to figure out what are their gifts and talents, skills. What has God told them and given them ability to do? What have they done in the past with their family, or where's their experiences at, and what can they do? So at that point in time, we will work with them, train them, teach them business concepts at whatever level they're at. And so when we come away from that, we have guys that follow up and ladies that follow up with them and make sure that we're mentoring them and helping them.
So cool. So you have someone that has come to know the Lord. They're like, they've come to a place of like, I'm ready to pastor. I want to open my home, which their homes are. I mean, you touched on their homes last time.
Yeah. One room, little concrete.
Yeah.
Place.
And they just, I think I remember when Jason and Chad came back from India, they just talked about how they clear the house. Like they take everything out of the house,
They
right?
do.
And everyone comes in and sits on the floor.
Sits on the floor.
Oh.
Yeah.
And even that reverence that you see, that just, it's so different. I walked into our sanctuary a minute ago. We're prepping for all these kids. The air conditioner hits you like a wall of ice, and then the kids come in and the music is going. It's just such a different type of worship that's incredible. The joy and the appreciation. It's just awesome. So then how do you, when someone is, pastoring a church, you get connected to them through the network, and how do you start to really look in and discern their calling, their gifts? And like, I'd love to hear just a tad about that. Like, that's incredible too.
Well, what we do is they know when we're coming. So the leaders over there that I work with will put together a group of people and say, okay, we're going to do business training on these days. And they'll let their pastors from that whole district come in. We've had people, and this last one I had, that took a 14-hour train ride.
Wow.
Across to get there. So they're very serious about it, and you want to give them everything you can, because it's amazing how they travel to get there.
Wow.
So it was really neat. My interpreter down in my last one, he was 12 hours on a bus. So it's hot. It was when I was there. It was 112 degrees.
And they
some
pack
days.
people on buses.
They pack.
I would bet. Yeah.
And they come in and we spend a couple days with them. They also, while they're there to make the trip, or they'll do some pastor training as well. But I'll spend 2 full days with them, just going through business concepts and working through them. So what we initially do is when they get there, before I arrive, they send me information on them.
Okay.
So what their business background is, a little bit what they're wanting to do, what they feel like they're capable of doing, and so we have a little bit of knowledge about each one of them. Even though this last time there were 60 of them, 59, but at least we have an idea of where they're at, so we kind of know where to start.
That's so
And
cool.
then we spend the first session, I spend the first 2 hours, like I said last time, trying to talk them out of it, in terms of, is God really calling you to do this? Because do you know what it costs? How hard it is to start a business? We know in
That's
the
awesome.
U.S., we got a nearly 90% fail rate in the first 5 years for small businesses. So it's not something, but it's different over there. You can't really compare to what we do here. People here start businesses, and certainly they do it, for the income and the need of the family. But a lot of times it's because that's what I'd like to do. But if I don't make it work, then I can always go back into the job market. I have skill sets and things. Over there, this is everything. This is their livelihood. They're all in on it.
So just from your experience and years of, I think you mentioned last time you were in corporate, but then an entrepreneur. So the Lord has given you the ability to kind of look at a resume, if you will, of someone that you've never met and say, okay, this is who they are. This is what they're wanting to do. And right off the bat, you can kind of take a look at it and say, I can strengthen this person by leaning in and asking some questions just to really pull out anything that might get in the way. Is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, we're able to do that. What you don't know from that is what's driving them and what their heart is and what their passion is.
Oh, and how do you get there?
Well, that's just spending time with them. That's
Yeah.
talking it through. And you can tell when you're visiting, when you're working, and you're training them, they're taking notes, they're asking questions, they're coming up in between sessions and saying, hey, what about this or that? And so you can sense. And some of them already have some business experience. They may have started and made something small.
Yeah.
And so they're just trying to grow it. Right now it's kind of struggling, and so we can work through, kind of say where you're at on that. So each one's a little bit unique, but it is a driving force over there that they need the income. They need to make money.
Yeah.
And so there's a higher success rate.
That's fantastic. So after you've gone through that initial round, then you'll start teaching. So you have been able to create, what would you call it, Mike? I know my education experience, I'd call it a curriculum, but I don't know necessarily if that's what you would say.
Very similar. It's a training program. We
training
spend 2 days. We developed eight sessions. And it's funny. We originally, every time I go, I tweak it a little bit because now it's very interactive. That's how they learn. So many of them learn by actually doing it and you talking it through it and spending the time. And we use it with their own business or the one that they want. They feel like the Lord's calling them to start. So we plug that information in. And we know enough about each of the basic businesses over there. It's interesting. There are some varieties, but the majority of these people are either wanting to do a little retail store.
Okay.
They want to do a taxi cab type service. They want to have like a dairy farm. There's certain things that a lot of them are like creative. A lot of the ladies can sew, and they're very good at it, and I make them beautiful clothes. So they'll wholesale their stuff, and now they're wanting to maybe open their own store. A lot of the guys were on the fruit stands, and the vegetables, and so we talk. So there are some outliers, and we'll spend time. I had a guy last week. It was last month. And he was a barber.
Oh.
And we actually went in. We surprised him. I had seen him on my first
Did
visit.
you get your haircut?
So we did. We went in and we were able to see how he did what he did and surprised him and to see just how they operated and what he needed.
And had you already taught him?
Yeah, we had. And so he's really excited.
You got to see the fruit of your labor?
Well, he's actually, yeah. Well, he hasn't opened yet. He's still working for the same guy, and that's what we talked about. He says, hey, you've worked for this guy for 8 years. So when you do, you want to leave right, and you want to do it properly, and we had already talked about you want to find a location that's far away so you're not a competitor. You want to give him adequate notice. You want to do things the way God would want you to do it. But God's calling you to step out and do this. So he was in that process when we went. So we were actually able to meet his boss. And he was blessed, it was great. He was all good. He was excited for the young man.
Was his boss a believer too?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So he's working on, no, not yet.
That's it. I'm like,
no, not yet. Oh. So we worked on that, but he was able to meet our team and meet all of us, and we were so gracious to him, and it was fun, and just to see the experience. I wanted to kind of see what he was looking at doing. So now we have a better idea of how they do that particular business in India. So anyway, those are the kind of things that we do.
That has to be incredibly, I want to pause for just a second. I want to hear more about the strategy and the lessons, but that has to be, I have the privilege of sitting here and seeing your face as you talk about, okay, I've been blessed to meet these people. I'm helping them to do things the Lord would want them to do with their business. I'm about to help this man step out. and like seeing the smile on your face when you get to walk in and see him in his current place, and knowing about what's about to happen, because he's being fueled by, the Holy Spirit and the Lord, and the Lord's given you the gifts. There's just no feeling like it. I mean, knowing that you're making eternal impact and seeing how the Lord has equipped you to do that. I know that when the Lord has used me in various things in the ministry work I do now, it's just unreal. So like seeing your smile, trying to put words to that, Mike. Yeah.
Well, it's exciting. The first time we went, they introduced me to a guy that had just started a, little trikes they have over there. Everybody rides around in them, right? The little covered trikes. And he had actually started a business where he was selling them. And, they're everywhere. But his stands out there, and he's got 3 of them out there. And he's kind of struggling. And I said, man, there's 1 million of them out there driving right in front of you every day. I said, why don't you do you do any repairs and maintenance and offer that? So he did, and when we went back 9 months later, that was the largest part of his business. And he was doing he had hired 2 guys, and they were just constant doing repairs. But he was a believer, and so it was exciting to see.
He could talk to people,
yeah,
build relationships.
So that's what he said. So it's a great avenue to meet, the people that are coming in needing repairs. So now it's kind of, and in his case, that was just. They all realize that this is not something different than their ministry. It's an extension of their ministry. Yeah, they have their house churches, but their business is an extension of the people that he brings into their lives, whether it's a competitor, whether it's a customer, whatever, supplier. So
that is such a perfect illustration of what Pastor Jason asked in church Sunday when he was getting ready to talk in his sermon. He just said, raise your hand here if you're in ministry. Mm-hmm. And the point was for all of us to raise our hands because we're all on mission every single day. Yep. And so I thank God that he gave you that business mind, and now he's taken your business mind to India, and literally you're walking down the street and helping people see opportunity for business. Yes. And that will fuel income for their family and for their home church, but it also creates opportunities for leading more people to Christ. That is just awesome.
Seeing these people that's sensitive to the Lord, it was funny, that same guy I was talking to, he said, I'm doing that now, and that is the largest part of our business is repair and maintenance and taking care of these vehicles out here. But he said, but up when we grown, it was allowed me now, he had 6 new ones for sale before he had 3. So he was doubling his little inventory too as well. But he said the funniest thing, he said, what happened? He said, my business after I started going downhill a little bit a couple months ago. And he said, I started praying, Lord. I said, I was up all night praying. Why, Lord, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong? And he said, all of a sudden I sat up in bed one night after a couple of weeks of wrestling with this, and the Lord said, you're not tithing on the business. You're only tithing on yourself, but not on your business. I own the business. He said, I started tithing the next day, even if I didn't know if I could afford it. He said, no, my business is shot right back up again.
Yes. Oh,
so it was a reminder for everybody.
Yes. My husband and I have seen that in our own lives. Like confession, we didn't always, tithe either. And when we started tithing, God's economy is really interesting. Yeah. Doesn't always add up.
No.
It's like, I'm not sure how that works, but it works. It's for real. So what are you teaching with your lessons?
We start out talking to them about, like I said, are you called to this? But we talk about how difficult it will be, what it will take. And we help them analyze and look at themselves and say, let's talk about skill sets. Let's talk about your experience. And we have some forms and some things that we go through with them and say, be honest with yourself. Where are you at? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you need to learn? Maybe God's calling you to do this, but you first need to learn something. Maybe you're 6 months away. Maybe you're a year away. Maybe you have young children at home and it's just not the right time. So you and your wife, you need to decide when it's the best time. So we go through all that and help them analyze, and then we say, okay, if God's still calling you to that at this point in time, then let's get started. So then at that point in time, we start saying, okay, you've got an idea and a concept, but let's do market research and see if there's really a market for what you want to do. Hopefully it's not just something you thought would be a great idea. So we go through that and we do what we call a SWOT analysis. We go through and we look at the market, we look at the competition, and we look at their strengths. We go visit them, strengths and weaknesses, and then our own strengths and weaknesses. What could we do better? Then we do the same thing with customers. You'll actually go out in the area and talk to people and say, that are buying that item or wanting that service, and then themselves as a customer, what's lacking out there? Why do you feel like there's a need? Is there a shortage of resources? So we go and we help them analyze, yes, there is a viable market for what I want to do, and I believe I can do it and do it really well and do it better and can compete. And so then at that point in time, then we start looking at their financial planning. We start saying, okay, and we use a canvas business model. We don't go into a business plan. That's if they're not going to the bank to loan money, to borrow money, and that's a little deep and overwhelming. But a canvas model is really fun because it's real basic. It covers all the bases, and in the nine sections of that, and we actually have that on a form. So it's fun when they first come in. That we've got all these chairs, everybody's sitting, and we're talking to them. At this point, we say, all right, clear the chairs. All the chairs go out of the room, and everybody gets on the floor, sits down, and we give these sheets to them and markers. And so for the rest of the sessions, they're having fun. They're sitting down and they're filling in their and that's what we do. We're doing it on the board. We give them time. They fill it out. We go and we look at it with them. We spend time and it's exciting. So we really get into. That's how we really get into their business. And then when one person, there's usually 4 or 5 people in that room wanting to do the same type business in their area. So they learn from one another. Here's what I've done. Here's what I've not done. And then we have experience in business. Say, hey, what have you done this? The last time we were farther into the training sessions, but one of the people brought up an issue. So, well, I had a customer and they weren't happy with what I did, and so I said, well, how did you handle that? And one of the people raised their hand and said, well, next time you do it right. You do it really well. And I just said, there won't be a next time.
That's right.
That customer may not come back.
Customer
so how do you handle
first,
it? So we were able to then, with everybody laughing and kidding about it, say, how do you handle customer complaints? How do you handle real world situations like this? And so little things like that we're able to, we stop what we're doing and say, that's a great real world issue. Let's talk about how you handle that. So we go through that, but we talk to them financing. Then we go into operations. What do you have to do operationally?
Yeah.
In terms of purchasing and then we talk about scaling the business later on. But we initially talk to them about, okay, what are you going to take, and let's do a budget. And we spend time with them, a long session of every one of them filling out initial business plan model in terms of just basic. What's going to cost me to start this business? What do I really need? From a standpoint of equipment, location, inventory, number of people. We talk about hiring. Then we go into finances, again, basic finances, but things that they need to look at and that they need to monitor. We do a P&L statement, a very basic P&L with them so they can look at it every month and kind of see where they're at. We teach them how to do it. They all actually do one with their projections for their first year projections, which is, fun for them. They've never done it. And a lot of them will come up later and go, man, I can help this with my personal finances. I don't have very many, but it does help me a little bit. So it's just kind of fun. So we do that, and then once they're up and going, we do finish it with the last section of talking about once the business is up and running and you're monitoring it, how do you scale the business? What's the next step? How do you grow it? How do you maintain it? So
incredible. I mean, I just think of the excitement that must be in those rooms.
It's just fun. They
have to feel so encouraged.
They do. We all do. It's just because now they have a real handle. We believe on I can do this.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. It's so fulfilling.
So I would imagine the first time you went over there, you saw a need and you started developing this. And in a relatively short amount of time, with the Lord's help, you've created a whole plan. That is really getting these businesses up and running.
Yeah, it took a few months, and then it's fun each time I go back. I learn a little bit more, and I start writing special notes and saying, "Hey, this is great. Let's add this, add that." So it's a progress, but yeah, it's a good basic. But we feel like it covers all the bases.
That's what I'm thinking too, Mike. It's so cool because you would think there's going to be major differences between a barbershop and a mechanic shop. Well, there's just going to be differences in different businesses, but with what you've created, it gives the basic framework or skeleton that would be needed to get a business started, going, moving forward. And then even within that, you're really creating a network because they can find other people to lean on while you're not there, while you have a team there too. You talked about you've created a team.
Yeah. And they can follow up because we can't do it we have to be able to mentor them, and they have to have somebody they can go back to and say, hey, what about this or that? Or can you look at my location, or can you look at this with me? And so we do that. We go and we look and help them with their location, and you look and what are you doing? Or have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? So we're in contact with them. So that's fun. Wow. But we are going to have to develop a larger team over there because as this grows, they have to be accessible to them.
And I want to talk about that. Oh, goodness. We're already at like 28 minutes, and it's like, I don't know how that happened. So we're going to talk about that in the next episode about developing a team and how people here can be part of this team. But I have heard you already say we, in terms of like when you say we, when you're talking about India, who is the we that you're talking about? Like, who is there with you as part of the teaching team?
Well, I go through First Baptist, but we also, one of our partners is To Every People that we support, and I go with them.
Okay. And they're helping with your translators.
They've helping with everything. They help me set everything up. They introduce me to the leaders that are over there.
Okay.
And so now I'm directly in contact with the leaders, and I've set everything up with them. But I usually will travel with one of the TP pastor trainers that goes with me. And so I'll be teaching BAM, and he'll be teaching the pastoral training and discipleship and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
So how long, you said eight lessons
Mm-hmm.
is what you offer, and then how long are they there together? I mean, some of them, like you said, have ridden a train for 14 hours or a bus for 12. So they're coming, and it's full. It's a full time. How long are they there? What do the days look like?
They're usually there 4 days.
Okay.
I spend 2 days with them. The day prior, they'll do some pastor training for a couple days. Sometimes they'll have a 5th day where they'll just do some stuff together. Where the network's doing some additional just team building and just encouraging them and things like that. So that's always fun for them. We provide meals and do some extra things for them. It's just kind of makes it special for them. They're things they don't normally get to do. So, yeah, it's just a fun time.
As we wrap up this episode, what is your favorite, when you're thinking about the teaching that you do, what's kind of your favorite lesson when you're diving into the content? Do you have a favorite piece of it?
Yeah, it's the part when I start teaching them that this business is an extension of their ministry and that it's God's business and that they're just stewards of it and that everything that they do is an opportunity for them to share the gospel with other people and that people are watching them and that they have to do it with integrity and do it the right way. And they get excited about that and they realize, you're right, God's called me to this. This is not separate from my church ministry. This is not, I have to be on doing the same thing and conducting myself the same way in my ministry. It's just an extension of it in my business. So
I have no doubt that there's a story behind that. How did that passion grow for you?
No, the Lord's blessed our businesses over the years, and people ask, how did you do this? How did you come up with this concept, or did you try this various things? And my wife and Tracy and I always laugh. We always laugh and go, it's the Lord. It's not us. He just gave us the idea, and I can look back over my career and just say how the Lord put me in different situations and how I was able to take on something new like that and do it. And so it's really Him doing it. I mean, you work hard, and you do need to experience, and you do need to study and know what you're doing, and you do use good basic business concepts and financial concepts, and you handle your money well and do all those things, and you sacrifice and do all that. But the Lord's the one that provides it.
It's tried and true for you. Whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God.
Yeah, and then He blesses it, or So but it's
awesome.
Yeah, He just kind of directs you, and you look back and you say, wow. Okay, now, Lord, I know why you put us here, how you did that, and you just remember those things that He did. Where He's faithful.
Very faithful, yes. Okay, well, is there anything else you would add as I think about what all we've talked about? Really, listeners, we are all called to go and make disciples of all nations, and we know from the book of Revelations that all tribes, all tongues will be standing around the throne room, and so business as missions is a strategy that helps these local pastors in India to keep their home churches open, to keep going, because they're finding that they have lots of opportunity to grow income, and it's all from this idea of using the strategy of business as mission. Mm-hmm. What else would you say about that, just to help listeners really understand?
I would just say to the people here at First Baptist, you know what? God can use your skill sets, and He can use the things. And you may think it's insignificant, but it's huge for some other people. They don't know what you know, and they don't have the experience you have, and there's a reason why God gave that to you. And if you're open at all to using that, we would love to talk with you, because we're just starting, but there are so many opportunities over there. And it's not just there. We also want to work domestically here as well, too, with First Baptist. So there's opportunities across all over the globe, but certainly here.
Awesome. Thank you,
Texas.
Mike.
Thank you.
That is so cool. So, yeah, like you just heard Mike say, perhaps this episode has stirred your heart a little bit. Perhaps you're reflecting on your days in the military. Perhaps you're reflecting on businesses that you've been a part of, and you might be thinking, gosh, I wonder if the Lord would want me to do something. The answer is probably yes, with lots of exclamation marks. So reach out to someone here at the church, in the missions department, Chad Mason or Heather Austin, or perhaps Mike Hinchin himself, and we would love to help you find out exactly what it is the Lord's calling you to do. So, Mike, thank you for episode 2. Looking forward to this next episode, where we just want to hear some stories about connecting and partners and the various the things that have really come from the seeds that you've planted. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
We are so thankful that you joined our podcast today. We would love to hear any feedback you may have for us. Remember, Psalm 67 says, "May God be gracious to us and bless us, and make his face shine on us, so that your ways may be known on earth and your salvation among all nations." Don't forget why the Lord blesses us. It's so that we can be a blessing to those around us. Until next time, God bless.